Well, hello and welcome to the AzureWell podcast, where we're encouraging everyone to live well and restore their health balance. So let's get right to it today. We have Dr. Alphonzo Monzo with us to talk about cardiovascular health. That's something that traditionally is what people think about in February. We've got, the Valentine's Day thing and everybody's talking about heart stuff, and it's a good time to talk about the heart and cardiovascular health. So, Dr. Monzo, what do you have for us today?
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and well, not so many years ago, cardiovascular disease was like the number one disease in the country. Now it's been taken over by cancer,
Mm.
and I think the cancer numbers are skyrocketing now with these. What are they calling them? Turbo cancers or whatever. So, but cardiovascular is still up there,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of people are noticing issues with strokes and clots, AFIB, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be a great topic. So our topic today, cardiovascular strength and wellness, stay
Nice.
stroke smart. So should be an interesting conversation because we're going to cover some things that are commonly known, some things that are not commonly known, and some body life-saving hand positions for different cardiovascular related issues.
I think that's going to be really interesting. That's good.
Yeah. So, like always, our outline is going to be going over root causes to cardiovascular issues. Then we're going to talk about lifestyle improvements to your cardiovascular issues, nutrition to improve cardiovascular, ATB, the body support for cardiovascular. And then, of course, we're going to talk about AzureWell's supplement line and what products on there will help the cardiovascular. And it will make a lot of sense when we start looking at some of those ingredients and some of the other things we're going to talk about here under we're really under the root cause and nutrition part. You're going to see a lot of the things we mentioned there related to the supplements, and there's a lot of supplements we can choose from for the cardiovascular here. So first one, and some of you listening, you're probably starting to get the idea here. Almost every health issue, one of the root causes is nutritional deficiencies. So cardiovascular system, there's no difference. Nutritional deficiencies is one of the top things. One of the other things is inflammation. So inflammation is a huge driver to cardiovascular issues, especially when we have things like cholesterol issues, which cholesterol is not a bad thing, but our body makes cholesterol a lot of times to protect us, especially from oxidative stress and inflammation. So instead of looking at cholesterol as the root cause, we should be looking at what's causing all the inflammation. And of course, we have trans fats and bad oils. That's going to really mess up the cardiovascular system. So you definitely want to get away from that. Get back to the good old healthy saturated fats. And then we have no or low ORC. Now, a lot of times people don't know what that is. That is a measurement of antioxidants, but what it stands for, well, it's related to antioxidants. The measurement is actually oxygen radical absorption capacity. And the higher the ORC level, the higher something is as an antioxidant. So how well is it going to do against oxidants in the body, which are tearing everything up? And there are some foods that are super high and some aren't. But we have found over the years consistently that when you have low antioxidants in the body, your cardiovascular problems are going to be higher. And higher antioxidants in the diet, the better the cardiovascular system works. And it's true for a lot of other health issues too, but specifically cardiovascular system really needs those antioxidants. And we're going to talk about specific minerals and nutrients here in a minute. Stress, mental, emotional. We're dealing with the heart. So I think we know we carry a lot mentally, emotionally with the heart. And we even have phrases like heartbreak and a person died of a broken heart. There's all these types of phrases out there, and we don't just use those lightly. There's something really true about that. There seems to be a gut, brain, heart connection. Those kind of seem to be the three main centers of the body. And interesting that in the scriptures, oftentimes the heart and the gut, even the brain, and they don't really mention brain a lot, the mind, are attributed to having thoughts and feelings. And so in westernized world, we think that's a little weird. It's like, no, the brain thinks. The heart just pumps. Maybe it has feelings. We don't know. But in the scripture, it talks about the heart, the thoughts of the heart, and the feelings of the heart, and all these different senses being related to the heart and other organs in the body. And of course, in naturopathic studies and a lot of the more Eastern type of philosophies, they do attribute those type of things to the different organs in the body. So mental, emotional stress is really, really important. And then you have this thing, two big guys here. High unbound iron stuck in your tissues. Don't want that. That's going to cause inflammation and oxidative stress. So if you're creating tons of inflammation and oxidative stress to your veins and your arteries and the heart tissue, guess what's going to happen? Not something good. And the other one is that big synthetic D. So hormone D, unfortunately, a lot of people call it vitamin D, but it's a steroid hormone. And the synthetic form can cause a lot of cardiovascular issues, which we're going to get to. In fact, we're even going to show you an article from the American Heart Association about synthetic D. And then lastly, just normal toxins. So there are your root causes. So now getting into the steroid hormone D. So if you see right up here where the arrow's pointing, you can see that it says American Heart Association Circulation Research, talking about D, specifically 25D from synthetic source. And it's talking about how new trials, basically, for years, we have heard everyone needs D, everyone needs D, everyone needs D. D is for everything. It helps everything. But new randomized trials have failed to find any direct correlation to taking synthetic vitamin D supplements and cardiovascular benefit. But instead, they're finding that it has a really negative effect with how it affects calcium in the body. It says down here at the bottom, because the cardiovascular effect of vitamin D hormone are not straightforward, both toxic and beneficial effects may result from current recommendations. Isn't that interesting? And then this is a little chart. So what they explain in this article, which I think is phenomenal because a lot of people don't realize this, is there are two different pathways that D takes in the body. The one on the left is the natural endogenous source. So if you were out in the sunlight, this is the pathway. The activation of UV light on the skin is going to affect your body to make, is that saying 20? Yeah, D3. And then a lot of the storage and processing of D3 is going to occur in the liver. Now, that's 25D. That's the inactive form. That's the form that everyone tests is in your blood. It's inactive, so it really doesn't mean anything. It's the storage form. So in the storage form, it's supposed to be in the fat, the muscle, being made in the liver because of the stimulation on the skin, and stored until your body needs it. And you can actually store it throughout winter. So if you get plenty of sunlight in the summer, you can store 25D. And then when your body needs it, it sends it over to the kidneys. And the kidneys turn it into 125D, which is the active form, supposedly. There's actually one more step that's not on here, and that is the 125D active form then goes to the transsulfuration cycle of methylation, where it gets turned into a sulfur-based form. We used to say a water-soluble form, but the technical terminology for that is a sulfur-based form. And that's what the body is actually using, but almost nobody focuses on that form of D. Now, the unfortunate thing is in the American Heart Association journal here, they show that this second pathway on the right is what happens when you take supplemental D. So when you take supplemental D, it doesn't go through the same pathway. And one of the big problems, specifically if it's the synthetic vitamin D, is it will pull calcium out of your bones. That's why they have a little bone over here, and deposit it into your arteries. That is not what you want. And then you see that it doesn't actually go through the liver, and it doesn't actually get processed through your kidneys. Instead, it gets into the muscle shells, and that's a little picture of a muscle cell there, that thing that kind of looks like a long eye shape. Yeah, well, it's trying to think what that technical name for that is, with the two little points on the end, kind of looks like your eye stretched out. That's technically a muscle cell. And then you can also see it's showing monocytes, which is the immune system. And then it's saying a form of this 125D, which is supposed to be your active form, gets stuck in the arterial walls and will lead to plaque, because it's not the type of 125D that the body can readily use. And it builds up, and then the body will create plaque and cholesterol and all these other things to come and help try to take care of the cause of this inflammation here now that's building up. Not what we want.
So this is coming from a publication by the American Heart Association saying that essentially getting your vitamin D from a supplement isn't good for your heart health. Is that the bottom line?
Correct.
Wow.
And I forget, maybe, I don't know if it's on the slide or not, how long ago this was. Let's see, can we make that bigger here for a second? November 11th, I don't see a year. It looks like it's on the magazine, but it's so small, I would have to look it up. But it was, originally published May 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 years before COVID. And, they're trying to be nice in the article, and they end it as kind of saying, like, maybe we should really reconsider all these recommendations on D. Because we were told all this amazing stuff by it, but we can't duplicate in clinical studies all this amazing stuff they say D is going to do. And it actually looks like it has a very toxic effect to the cardiovascular system by pulling calcium out of the bones and depositing it into the arteries. And it's like, well, that's the last thing you want. So the information's out there, but how many people are going to look at this and actually consider it? And I think it's really interesting that their title was Steroid Hormone. Then they put in vitamin D, implications for cardiovascular disease. So something we really should be taking into consideration. I guess it's not a surprise to me, because I've done the deep dive on D, and I know I think there's only been 2, maybe 3 studies ever where they measured the person's active D and inactive D in like a double-blind study. And their conclusion was that every single person, everyone who was healthy and everyone who was unhealthy, all had low amounts of inactive D, 25D, which is what everyone's testing in your blood. And it's like, well, the inactive form doesn't do anything, so why is that the standard measurement? And if everybody's low in it, does it mean anything? Well, it turns out it doesn't mean anything, because it's inactive. It's the storage form. It's not supposed to be in your blood. But between the healthy and the unhealthy people, all the unhealthy people had something in common, and that was their active D was too high. So the only problem with vitamin D was actually getting too much. Now, I don't know if the studies actually factored out the difference between supplementing and actually being in the sun. They were giving everyone supplements. So the problem might have been they were giving everyone synthetic D, which was turning into a synthetic 125. We don't know. And this is the problem with medical studies. We think we have really good controlled studies, but when you really get into it, it's like, how controlled really was it? Did they do a study with only people being in the sunlight? Maybe that would be different. But that might answer the question as to why God made his mistake and didn't put vitamin D in all your food. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
my big argument always is, if we really needed vitamin D so much, why can't you really find it in your food?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't God know better? Oh, maybe he didn't put it in the food because you're not supposed to get too much and you're only supposed to be getting it from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not one of the 90 essential nutrients because it's something your body makes on its own. So something to really consider. Why do we only find very small amounts? I mean, one of the largest amounts with, like we always say naturally, is cod liver oil.
Right.
But if you were to look at how much you actually get from cod liver oil, I mean, you would never be able to get the doses that people are recommending. Even
Right.
low doses, like 3,000 units, you would have to take like the whole bottle to get
Mm-hmm.
3,000 units.
And that's a very natural form. That is just how it comes out of the cod livers.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you talk about synthetic vitamin D, are you talking about the irradiated lanolin
Yep.
vitamin C?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, so people don't know, basically they're taking the wool and they scrape the you could say it's almost like a fat greasy stuff off the wool, and then they have to radiate that and do all kinds of things, and then that basically gets turned into 25D. Calorifical, they will call it. But now if you look at certain types of rat and mice poison, you will see that they actually put vitamin D in there. One is actually called like Raid D3 or something. And when you look at it, it's actually vitamin D3, just like what you take synthetically. And how it works with the rats and the mice is it causes hypercalcemia. It pulls the calcium out of the bones and overfloods the kidneys, and they die of kidney disease. And that's how it kills the rats.
Wow.
And it's basically doing the same thing to us, but they're like, well, we're bigger than a rat. So you would have to take really high doses to have something lethal like that for us. And then sometimes people don't like to use that analogy. They're like, oh, it's not really the same. That's not what the American Heart Association is saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically is doing the same thing. So,
and that's where most of the vitamin D3 supplements come from. Ours is unusual in that, yes, ours is coming just from the cod liver oil.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is why eventually, when people started realizing the side effects of D, they started throwing vitamin K2 in there and saying, oh, it's safe if you take the K2 because then you won't have this problem with the calcium. It turns out that it didn't make any difference. And I think they even mentioned that in this article, that the vitamin K didn't make any difference, but they were hoping it would. So the whole thing of throwing the K in there doesn't make it safe. So,
sounds like we were all part of a big experiment with that one.
And the other thing to think about with cod liver oil is the ratio. So naturally occurring, the ratio is usually 10-1 retinol to D. So D is very low and the retinol is 10 times more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important because people don't realize that retinol is activated in the body by sunlight. So a lot of the retinol pathways overlap D, which is why a lot of the studies, you have to really question, what were you studying? Because if you're influencing D, you're influencing retinol.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the real causal factor in the study? And that's why I come to the conclusion that I think retinol is what your body really needs a lot more than the D, and it works along with it. And that's why the synthetic Ds will really deplete your retinol. If people remember when we talked about ceruloplasmin, one of the big things we were talking about is be careful of the synthetic Ds because it will really destroy your retinol, animal source vitamin A, which then you can't make copper bioavailable. So you have to really be careful with the D. I think we covered D a lot.
Yeah.
But now people know a little bit more why we are so stickler about this topic.
And that it affects your heart health. It's
Yep.
not just, your immunity or everything else that people use D3 for. This is for your heart health and circulation.
Oh, okay. I thought I had something on there about iron, but I think I didn't cover the iron because we've covered it before. So everyone should know wherever that unbound iron is accumulating, you're going to have oxidation and inflammation. And does it accumulate in the heart tissue? Yes. Can it accumulate in the blood vessels? Sure. It's not supposed to be, It's supposed to be in the hemoglobin or in your mitochondria. And it's supposed to have transporters. It's not supposed to just be free floating around the body. Now, here is a list of some of the major cardiovascular issues. So if you've been already diagnosed with this, because we can't diagnose you, but if you already know you have these problems, here are some causal effects of these different ones. So coronary heart disease, we know it's related to the bad foods, those bad oils, fried foods, inflammation, nutritional deficiencies, low antioxidants, and then energy circulation, which we're going to get to the energy circulation. That's referring to the Alphonzo body. All right. Now, irregular heartbeat, degenerative discs and spine can affect that because I think it's T5 specifically, but there could be other spinal vertebrae. I'm not a chiropractor, so I don't specialize in that. But we know there are nerves that come off of the spinal nerves that go and innervate the heart, directly go to the heart. So obviously, if there's something pinching one of those nerves or misalignment, then it could directly be related to a irregular heartbeat. And if you have a degenerative disc, then that cushioning in there is been flattened, right? Or the disc is misshaped, and it's going to put more pressure on the nerves. So you don't want that. You don't want your little discs in there that are supposed to act as cushion becoming flat, because that's pumping up the spinal vertebrae so they're not pinching the nerves. And when those things get flat or uneven, then something's going to get pinched, and that could be causing an irregular heartbeat. So this is where having a great chiropractor who can test these things, before you maybe jump on the drugs. Hey, maybe you need a spinal alignment, and see what they can do to get that disc puffed back up. Sometimes,
yeah, the thought that a pinched nerve kind of thing in your back would cause an irregular heartbeat, that's amazing.
So, a lot of chiropractors will use the spinal decompression. And a lot of times, they either have where you hang upside down, or they have like a table that actually kind of, one thing hooks your head and one thing hooks down lower, and they pull you and kind of decompress the spine. It takes the pressure off of that, and then you can get more blood flow in there. And a lot of times that will help those discs repair. So something like that might be needed.
Wow.
So something that not everyone thinks about. Now, this one is also going to have nutritional deficiencies, food allergies. Interesting enough, a lot of times, and we don't know if it's actually an actual food allergy or more like sensitivities, but they cause irritation. And sometimes it causes irritation even to the nerves to the heart, and that will cause an irregular heartbeat. And then, of course, the energy circulation in the body. Enlarged heart, specifically selenium deficiency, and then energy circulation. Aneurysms are typically copper deficiency, connective tissue, and then the energy circulation. Blood clots are typically B vitamin deficiencies, energy circulation, inflammation, and of course, I put on there the new technologies. And I think everyone knows what I'm referring to. If you get the thing in the arm, the new technologies are causing a lot of blood clots. And some of them that I have analyzed, I don't know if they're even really blood clots and not just nanotechnology. They're very weird. And they look like a weird parasite-like creature, but they're supposedly clots. And I think it's just nanotech life forms. It's a really weird technology we have now, which is just nanotechnology that on the outside looks like it's biological, but it's not. It's synthetic biology. It's actually a machine. And it kind of reminds you of Terminator. The Terminator was a machine, but on the outside, he had a human flesh suit on, so he looked like he was an actual human, but he wasn't. So we're getting a lot of that now today with all the weirdness that we now have to face. And then the last one here is strokes. Now, one of the things we know directly related to strokes is omega-3 EFA deficiencies, energy circulation, and then, of course, the new technologies have a lot to do with that.
Mm.
So now, if people don't know, a lot of this goes back to the work of Dr. Wallach with Dead Doctors Don't Lie. He started out as a veterinarian and studying animals, and then he became a naturopath, and I don't know if he got another degree after that, but he spent millions of dollars of research looking at diseases and doing autopsies and doing clinicals and finding what nutritional deficiencies relate to different diseases. So a lot of things he basically proved that this nutritional deficiency we know is directly related to this issue because it was always involved. And when they corrected it, it went away. So that's how we have a lot of these nutritional deficiencies that we know very well are related because of all the research he did. He's one of the few people who was ever able to get money together to do studies on supplements or nutrition and root causes of disease.
Mm.
Because usually that's not done. And the pharmaceutical companies aren't going to do it. And most of the medical field's not going to do it. So he basically kind of did it independently. And he's won a lot of lawsuits against government organizations who tried to shut down him from saying certain things. And he said, no, we have the evidence right here. And he won a lot of times in court, being able to prove, no, look, we have the studies to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's what we're trying to do at AzureWell, is help people to restore their balance. And that means that if their nutrition has been off and they have the symptoms of a disease and they feel bad, and it's because they just haven't, they're out of balance with their nutrition. And we want to help bring that back. And so, information like you're sharing helps to know, okay, this could be a reason why I feel this way. And maybe if I restore that balance with either different foods or supplements or something to change that up, so that if they are deficient in selenium or copper or something like that, they can restore that balance and then hopefully get well from it.
Yeah, when you look at the first two on there, the one was irregular heartbeat and what was coronary disease. A lot of those are vitamin or mineral deficiencies, especially irregular heartbeat. I mean, there's all kinds of different ones, right?
Right.
You could have rapid, you could have slow, you could, and a lot of those are related to the different minerals: magnesium, sodium, potassium, all that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's why they talk about electrolytes, because the electrolytes for your heart. And if you don't have electrolytes, which those electrolytes are actually minerals, that's what your heart needs in order to make all of that electrical stuff work appropriately.
Yeah. And a lot of times when you go to the hospital for a cardiovascular situation, sometimes one of the first things they do is they just plug in a bag of saline, which is what?
Electrolytes.
Yep, basically water and sodium, and but it has nothing to do with your heart.
Yeah.
Lifestyle to improve cardiovascular issues. Well, you're going to need the 90 essential nutrients because it's the best way to get all your minerals and all your vitamins. Just take the 90 essential, because we don't want isolated synthetic nutrients, right? We want all the nutrients working together in a whole food form, so that they're not isolated. And also the other thing with whole food is you don't need to take super high doses, because when it's in a whole food form, it's like 10 times more absorbable in a whole food form than synthetic. So we don't want isolated nutrition, because a lot of times that causes more problems. So we always start with the 90 essential nutrients, and then you can add in really specific things for whatever your specific issue is. So if you knew you needed a little bit of extra copper, well, now add in the copper. But I always start with the 90 essential, and then you have a good base to kind of cover everything. Physical exercise, movement, right? If we're not moving, nothing's moving. And we're talking about a circulatory system. So this is circulation. Circulation means something's moving, so we need to be moving for everything to move, especially, I think along with that one, with exercise, you should put in drinking enough water and electrolytes, because you have to put the electrolytes back in, because there's a lot of debate on how the heart actually works. Classically, we're taught that the heart is a pump and it pumps blood throughout the body. But there's a number of people who've done research on this, and they say, the heart actually isn't a pump. It isn't actually strong enough to pump the blood throughout the body. And what they have come to realize is it's more realistic to see the heart as an electromagnetic vortex, and it is actually structuring your blood, and it works based on how vortexes work. And so for those type of things in the body to work, you need good water, good structured water, living water, and that helps the plasma fluids in the body to work, because this is where we get into plasma fluids again, which it's not quite what we would think of as typical. A plasma is not, well, plasma could be two forms. It could just be light. When it gets to a structured form, it's more like a gel. It has properties of a liquid, it has properties of a solid, but it's neither. It's a gel. So you can think of the difference between, if you put water in a plate, what would that water do? It doesn't keep form, it just takes the shape of the plate. But if you put a little gel drop on the plate, it usually keeps that nice little round structure. If you put an ice cube on the plate, it's going to be a solid structure, and eventually it will melt. But so when we talk about structured water, that would be like plasma water, or what they call fourth phase water. Some people call it easy zone or easy water, which is, or it's the full name of that is exclusive zone. And what they're talking about is when you have water and the structured water actually separates from the non-structured water, and it creates this exclusive zone that's actually structured. Some people call it plasma water. So there's all kinds of different fancy names for this, but we really believe that this is how the body works. And what's his name? George Pollack wrote the book Fourth Phase of Water, and he did a really interesting experiments where he had structured water, and he put a little hollow tube in the water, almost like a straw, and then I'm trying to think of it. I think it started moving on its own then, because of the structured water. It actually started pumping through the straw, but then he would shine light onto the water too, and then it would really start generating energy and pump right through the straw by itself. Just light, as long as it was structured water.
Wow.
He's done experiments like this. So you can get his book, The Fourth Phase of Water, and he's basically showing you how this is possible. So everything in nature that we would call living water is water that has been flowing or moving, right? And this is what we see in the scriptures. Most of everything they did would have been with living water, or water that would be moving. And then when you get dead water has stagnant water that's just been sitting there for a while. I think everyone knows, if you're out in the wilderness and you're trying to survive, you don't go drink out of the puddle. You try to find a stream or something, get living water and not stagnant water. But it just goes back to that same principle. Limit the bad foods. Yeah, stay away from the sugars. The fried foods and the bad oils are the ones that are really going to mess up the cardiovascular system, because they create a lot of inflammation and a lot of oxidative stress. And when you're producing all the inflammation and oxidative stress in the blood vessels, then the body has to do something to try to repair that. And it could be cholesterol, plaque, or other things to try to repair that damage. And then you start developing a problem. And you don't want to clog up the veins and the arteries that are trying to move the blood. Improve detox and elimination. You need to get those toxins out and the unbound iron out. Improve energy circulation. We're going to talk about that. Deal with the mental emotional traumas. And of course, to stay away from those needles, because you don't want any unnecessary cardiovascular issues associated with who knows what being injected into you. All right. Nutrition to improve cardiovascular issues. Number one, healthy fats. You need the healthy EFAs. So your healthy omega-3 oils. So things like your good old cod liver oil that we sell. That's a great one. Some people, if you can get really clean flaxseed oil, is another good one. And really, that's the truth when it comes to all of your healthy fats. You have to make sure you're getting really high quality healthy fats that aren't oxygenated, where they start becoming rancid and go bad. So if oxygen is getting to the oils, then they're not going to last as long, and they're eventually going to go rancid. And that's the number one issue. I think the second, probably biggest issue, is companies that use really, really high heats in the process of processing their oils and getting it into a capsule or getting it into the bottle, because again, that is going to cause the oils to go rancid. So,
and that would probably be the issue with fried foods, because it's not necessarily the oil itself that is bad. You can use a super healthy oil, but when you heat it and allow all that oxygen get to it, that creates oxidation in the oil. Would that be one of the reasons?
yes. Now, if you're just eating at the normal restaurant, the problem is they almost all use seed oils. So it's pretty hard to find a restaurant that will actually use healthy fats when they cook your food. Usually everything is seed oils, and that's the wrong type of oils to be using. That's going to produce those trans fats and very rancid. The second thing, antioxidants. So foods that are high in antioxidants, which a lot of the things I listed on the bottom there, like the salmon, tuna, the dark leafy greens, high antioxidant berries. You're going to see a lot of the berries. Really powerful. Copper, selenium, and other minerals. Proteolytic enzymes. Proteolytic enzymes are really powerful for breaking down accumulations in the body that aren't supposed to be there. So these are enzymes you don't necessarily take with food. Sometimes people call them metabolic enzymes. That's kind of an accurate term, but it's more you're using it to break down things in the body that you don't want there. Now, right now we have some really good ones, but I think AzureWell is working on some newer ones that are going to be coming out hopefully sometime, this year. We're in 2025 now. Hard to believe that.
Yes.
But we have some really cool ones that have direct cardiovascular support and proteolytic enzymes that we're going to talk about. And then your B vitamins. So there's your nutrients. Here's the ORC value foods. So you can see over 300,000. So the higher the number, the better. And look what we have up here. We have ground clove, ground cinnamon. I don't know if you want to do sumac bark. For some people, that might be dangerous. So, but you can look at the different things on there. I would say, cloves, cinnamon, turmeric, oregano, acai berry. I'm trying to think. Does any of our products have cacao? I'm just looking at ingredients that you're going to see on a lot of our products. Curry, yeah. A lot of these things you're going to notice are in some of our products. So they're going to have high antioxidant abilities. So there's your list. ATP. Oops. Sorry, folks. I just hit my mic, I think. So ATP improvement for cardiovascular system. So this is how to stop a heart attack with your hands. So what you want to do is you want your left finger, your left hand really, to go to their left finger. So you're holding the whole thing like in that picture. So your whole hand's going around the finger and just holding it. So the left hand goes to their left little finger, and your right hand is going to their fifth thoracic vertebrae. Now, the fast way to find that, so you don't have to count, is if you put your hand on the back of their back, like shown in the picture, but you lift your thumb up so it makes like an L shape. If you put the top of the thumb right to the top of the shoulders and go straight over, you will be on thoracic 5. And a lot of times when a person's having a heart attack, this vertebrae will pop out like a fuse.
Hmm.
And so what this does is this is not the cure for heart attacks. This is for the emergency episode.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is going to help as a kind of almost like a bypass to get the energy descending and taking the pressure off the heart. So it will stop the emergency procedure or the emergency episode, but it's not what you would use to actually fix the causes of having heart attacks. This is only for the emergency. So after the emergency, then you would want to be looking at, okay, why are they having heart attacks? And there's specific things you could do in the Alphonzo Body book related to that, but then you also want to look at all the proper nutrition too and figure out why are they having heart attacks. So this is for the emergency episode to save a life. And normally it starts working almost instantly. So within 3 to 5 minutes, you should see significant changes in the person. But almost instantly, once you touch those 2 locations, the person should start feeling relief from symptoms.
So even if the cause, the reason is because they've had too much plaque or cholesterol build up and it's kind of like stopping up the heart, and I mean that sounds like, you're just kind of, plugging a hose. Even if that's the case, doing this brings energy back to the heart. Is that kind of how this is working so that it can still get past that somehow?
Yes. And we have, well, there used to be a medical doctor who was a cardiovascular cardiologist, and since has gotten into the field of holistic healthcare. I think he only does holistic healthcare now. But Dr. Cowden, Dr. Lee Cowden, not Cowan, 2 different guys. So this is Dr. Lee Cowden, and he saw this procedure done. And he thought, oh, this is never going to work, but he was open-minded, so he watched it be demonstrated. And then someone came in with into the hospital, and they were having massive heart attack, and they did the procedure, and it stopped. And he was like, wow, this is interesting. And every time they would let their hands off the person, they would, in a couple minutes, the heart attack would start back up. So he instructed the nurse or maybe the family on how to do this. And they just kept doing it. Well, eventually, when they got into surgery, they found that it was like 90% blocked on one side and 100% on the other. So he basically said that, if this application wasn't applied, the person would have died. There's no way they would have even made it, probably through surgery. But so they still needed to get cleaned out, but it was keeping them alive until they were able to find the cause and actually get it taken care of. So,
and if nothing else, it looks like something that certainly could not do any harm.
yeah, it can't do any harm. So call 911, apply the application, and we don't necessarily tell people not to do the other emergency advice that are appropriate. I mean, you still call 911 and you still get appropriate attention, but sometimes you don't have anything else other than your hands, so you can save some lives. And there's a lot of medical doctors who are using this now because now they understand the science behind it and they understand the physics behind it.
Is it something you can do for yourself?
Yeah. So for yourself, what you would do, if you can't hold a finger, you loop. So that's the thumb goes to that little finger, pad the pad, and then the second step after a couple minutes, you would go the pad on top of the nail. And that is like holding your finger. And since it's different polarities, you have to do one polarity on this side and one polarity on this side. So then you're getting the circulation through the entire finger without doing this. Because you can't do this because this hand has to go down here on your 5th thoracic vertebrae. And you just kind of reach down as far as you can, try to touch it. And then at the same time, you're doing the looping, which is like you touching your finger. It's all about the polarity.
Okay.
Next, AFIB. So this one seems to work really well so far for people. It's one of the newer applications that I had to come up with. And so you see that the short method is 3 steps. Step 1, 2, and 3. And that's what you could do to yourself. The longer version, which would most likely be someone else doing it to you, is down in this bottom corner. So that's a longer application. Oh yeah, it's just kind of weird how it moved the numbers way over, but you can see it's 7 steps. And a lot of times that is going to be a lot more thorough. So if you have where someone else can work on you, it's just like Simon says, it's telling you where to place your left hand and where to place the right hand. Now, the only thing you might not know by looking at this little picture down here, I just realized, just now clicked in my brain, you might not know where all those points are. So I'll describe here, but let's first do the short one. So you always have to have a right hand touching and a left hand touching because they're two different polarities. And if you don't have both polarities touching the body, it's not working. So step 1, the left hand is going to the 15, and you can see the 15, you find your pubic bone and you come over to the crease of the leg, and right on the edge of the pubic bone and the crease of the leg is point number 15. And I think that was supposed to be labeled, but I don't see where it's labeled now. That was supposed to say 15. Mm-hmm. Something got covered up. And then the right hand is going to the left number 6. So you would find the left foot again, and the right hand is going to the 6, which is right at the arch of the foot. It's basically on the side of the foot at the arch location. And that's the first step. So you would hold that about 5 minutes. And then you would move to the second step. Now, the only hand that's moving is the right hand. The left hand stays the whole time. So the right hand only would move to the left 5, which is back by the ankle bone. If you kind of draw a line from the ankle bone down to the heel, like a diagonal line, down along that line, you're going to find a little indent. And that little indent is where number 5 is. You're going to hold that for 5 minutes. Then again, you're going to move the right hand to the inside of the left knee. Right on the inside of the knee, on the left side, that's number 1. And you're going to touch that point for about 5 minutes. So your look at the longer application, you'll notice the first 3 steps are the same. Mm-hmm. Except step 4 now, you're on the 15 where you know that where that is, and then there's 9 on the blade. So if you find the very bottom of the shoulder blade, where it kind of comes down to a point, right down on the bottom of that point is where 9 on the blade is. It's actually on the blade itself, on the shoulder blade, at the very bottom. Point 10 is at the top of the shoulder blade, and it's off and against it. So you're not on the shoulder blade, you're right next to the shoulder blade at the basically almost at the top of it, at the top of the side of the shoulder blade. And these things have a 5-inch diameter of effective range. So as long as you're within 5-inch diameter, you're still going to activate the point. And that's a pretty big range. Mm-hmm. The 4 is going to be right at the back of the head at the occipital. So the occipitals are the 2 sides of the skull. Right there at the bottom of the head is where the 4 is going to be. And then 22 is right underneath your collarbone. If you have a book, there's a chart in there. I should have put a chart in the slide somewhere. Maybe I can pop it up here at the end and people can take a quick picture. If it's in the video, it's in the video, and then you can refer back to it.
And it looked like maybe those first 3 steps for the shortened version, those you can do to yourself, but the other ones, someone else probably needs to do it for you.
Correct. Okay. Yep, that's how that works. Palpitations. So on this one, it's a little bit different than AFIB. This is a palpitation. And So the first step here is the right hand goes to the left 15, and the left hand goes to the left number 7, which is at the bottom of the big toe. And of course, this is for self-help. Or someone else could do it to you. You could do it either way. You're going to hold that for so long, probably, hopefully, until things calm down a little bit, 5 to 10 minutes, and then go to step 2. Only the right hand moves to point 17, which is right there on the edge of the wrist, right where the wrist ties into the arm. You have like a little indent there. That is where number 17 is. And then, of course, you're going to hold that 5-10 minutes. You can hold the points longer, but you do want to complete the application. And then if it still hasn't recited, you just repeat the application. Stroke, brain attack. Okay, well, this is different based on if you know what the cause is. You're probably not going to know unless you've been to the hospital. Now, if it's a hemorrhage and there's a brain bleed, you use the stop bleeding procedure. And that is where the right hand goes down on the body and the left hand goes on top of the right hand at 90-degree angles, just like you see here in this picture. And you would just do it over top of the head. It doesn't have to be over the head, but that would be quicker and more effective. And this is not compression. This has to do with how energy circulation works. So the left hand's negative, it's on top. The right hand is on the bottom, which is actually touching the body. That's positive. So the flow of energy is going to be down, and then it's going to turn. And basically, this is exactly the same thing as a clock, or when you think about righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. This is right to tighten. So what are you doing? You're causing a centrifugal spin, and that causes the energy in the body to spin centrifugally and then pull the blood back in and clean up hemorrhages and things like that. So it has everything to do with the physics of how the hands are positioned and how the polarity of the hands are. There's no magic to this. There's no pressure. This is very light touch, but it's very powerful because we're using the principles of physics. Now, if you were to reverse your hands and the left hand was on the body first and the right hand was over top of it at 90 degree, that would be extraction. That would be for pulling things out of the body, and that would be centrifugal spin. Or lefty-loosey, that's pulling something out. So make sure the right hand's down first and then the left hand over top, 90-degree angles.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you said somewhere else helped me understand that right to remain or left to leave. And so if you put your right hand down first, that's going to help whatever it is remain. If you put your left hand down first, it's going to cause whatever that is to leave. But, it really is important. And to me, this makes all the difference to know that, yes, this is just physics. This is just the way the energy works, and the fact that, you've got a positive and a negative on each of your hands, kind of like a battery does. You put the battery in your mouse the wrong way, it's not going to work right. You have the positive and the negative, and when your body is actually made with some of those same principles, and you're able to use that to help you get through some of these things where the energy needs to go in the right direction at the right time, that's important.
Absolutely. And, one of the reasons why the blood, you have a negative and positive polarity on the hands is because of how the energy flows. So energy flows down one hand one way and the opposite on the other hand. And that makes two different polarities because that's how electrical circuits work. In electrical circuits, everything flows from negative to positive. It's different in magnetic fields, but in electrical fields, that's how the flow of energy is. So when you have energy in your body that's flowing in two different directions, it creates two different polarities. So then when you're putting those like this, then you're creating two different physics reactions, just like screwing in a screw and unscrewing it, or we have a lot of things that cause I mean, we even think of how the spin is on a toilet. When you flush the toilet, it causes that spin and it sucks everything right down. You know, there's nothing special about the toilet. There's nothing magical about it. It just has to do with how they're spinning the water down and that pressure to pull things down. You know, because you think about it, most toilets, they're not electrical.
This is true. Are you saying that that's part of that vortex?
Vortex.
Wow.
Now, if the stroke, and if you know the stroke is caused by a blood clot in the head, then there's a different procedure. And the procedure for this one would be the left hand goes to the left 15. So this is a clot, but the clot is in the head at the top. Stroke by blood clot in the head. So if you know where it is in the head, that's even better, because then you would be going to the 15 that's on the side of where the clot is. So if it's left, it's left. If it's right, it's right. But you're using your left hand to go to that 15 point. The right hand is going to the area on the head where they think the clot is. Now, if the person has a clot, but it's not in the head and is blocking the flow to the brain or somewhere else in the body, usually if it's a stroke, it's blocking the flow to the brain, then what you do is you cradle. What cradle means is you're using both sides of your hands. So maybe if we zoom in through my picture again here, what you will see is you're using your finger pads and the palm of your hand. And cradling means you're touching both sides of the same point. So the palm side of the hand is touching the 15s on one side of the body, and the finger pads are touching the 15 on the other side of the body. So you're cradling over both of them, and you're touching both at the same time. Palm on one side, finger pads on the other side. So this one, the left hand is cradling both 15s. So like the left here and the right here. So you're kind of cradling. And then you're also cradling on your 20s. So the 20s are on both sides. If I can get my, it's weird looking into your camera where it's opposites. There's my 20s. I just have to think about where they are. There they are. So the way to touch both of these is pads on one side and then the finger pads on the other. I'll just think about doing it and not look. And so now I'm cradling both sides. So you're cradling the 15s and then 20s. And then that's going to help with the circulation getting into the brain and clearing out the clots. Hope that makes sense. Oh, that's it for the hands on. Okay. We'll throw up the points here at the very end. I'll show my screen real quick and people can kind of see where all the points are and they have that in their mind. Now, basic nutrition from AzureWell. Here's your basics. So if you were really to do the last three there, the Alaskan cod liver oil, whole food multi, and the fulvic humeric mineral, that's really going to give you your 90 essential nutrients. Those three. If you need a little bit extra support with the copper, because copper is related to so many things, then you would throw in your core copper. So that would kind of be basic nutrition. So now you're getting your good healthy fats, you're getting all your vitamins, you're getting all your minerals, and with the core copper, you're going to get a little bit extra copper and other minerals in there, because remember, these are whole food based. So our core copper has beef liver, which is going to have a lot of your good B vitamins in there. You're going to have your zinc and your selenium and all the other things that you're naturally supposed to have working together with the copper. The next one, cardiovascular strength and wellness. So these are very specific products for the cardiovascular system. And the first one up, heart support. And look what we have in there, hawthorn. As far as herbology goes, probably the number one herb that people talk about when it comes to heart health is hawthorn. It's usually always top of the list. So this has the hawthorn, cayenne,
Mhm.
blueberries. Guess what? We're talking about antioxidants now.
Mhm.
Cardamom, olive leaf, beets, garlic, and CoQ10.
Mhm.
And a lot of those actually have very high antioxidants. A lot of great support for inflammation, a lot of great support for the heart health and circulation. So that is a powerhouse, really. And you can see one of the important things on this one was the blueberries on the front label
Mhm.
because of the support with antioxidants there. The next one is CircuHeart enzymes. So here's a product that has proteolytic enzymes like nanokinase, but it also has herbal support. We have the L-carnitine and L-arginine, and my thing is blocking me from seeing.
The diosmin.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's weird. Why my screen is doing that. But for some
Mhm.
reason, I can't see the bottom word.
Hmm.
I'm glad you were able to read it,
Hmm.
which is really powerful stuff.
Yes.
And so since you have the cardiovascular enzymes in there, it's going to help. This is going to be something that you want to take away from food so that your body is not using those enzymes to break down the food. But this is going to help break down accumulations in the cardiovascular system.
Mhm.
And we have a capsule form and a liquid form. And as far as I can remember, I don't think there's any difference between the two. I think it's just one's liquid. I'm trying to think. Now, well, maybe there's a
I can
couple.
look that up, but I think that there's not quite as many enzymes in the herbal liquid. I think that the herbal liquid is more herbal rather than enzyme based.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
they kind of complement each other. And so it's not it would be where hopefully if you're trying to find an answer, you would probably take both because they have different emphasis. Because the one with enzymes certainly is stronger in the enzyme thing, and I know that for my own health and recovery, enzymes have been huge, and that's why, yeah, like you mentioned, we're working on bringing out more products with enzymes in it because it just their value can't be overstated. I mean, enzymes and especially the nattokinase that's in there, it's very beneficial.
Yeah, and then the what did you say? Diamines?
Diosmin, yeah.
Yeah, that is from citrus fruit.
Mhm.
So it helps maintain blood vessel integrity, and it's a natural anti-inflammatory for veins. Now, that's not the only thing in this product. This product is loaded. So it has organic cranberry, it has organic olive leaf, the garlic's in there. It has organic chlorella, organic turmeric, organic cayenne. Am I
Mhm.
missing anything? Um, I think there's some fermented mushroom in there too. So it's really a powerhouse. So it's not just uh, proteolytic enzymes
Mhm.
and some amino acids, but it really has a lot of the powerful foods in there too.
Mhm.
So it will really help with circulation. This
And I
is
believe the
one of my
diosmin
favorite products for cardiovascular issues because it just helps so much stuff.
I believe, is also popular in products dealing with varicose veins, and varicose veins being part of your circulatory system.
Yes.
Mhm.
So blood pressure issues. This is a great one a lot of times. Clean out that stuff.
Mhm.
Very powerful for the blood clots and accumulations in the blood that you want to start breaking down and eliminating. So even what's the one? Cholesterol. I have a lot of people who don't want to be on the cholesterol drugs. So we have them take the Circu Health enzymes and heart support, and that makes a big difference. And a lot of times they can start getting off of that stuff.
Nice.
So you usually have to work with your doctor, of course, to get off of those drugs. But and you have to watch. your blood pressure and your numbers and stuff, because a lot of times these things are working naturally in a very similar way as the drugs. So once they start working, then you're able to start getting off the drugs, because it's like, oh, well, now it's too much support, which is a good thing. We want to get off those things. Resveratrol. Well, I think everyone's heard about this. This is a very powerful antioxidant. It has amazing support for the immune system, heart support, and circulation support. So we made it or AzureWell made a product that's just basically resveratrol. And I forget if there's anything. I think there might be one other ingredient in it, but it's pretty much just that, if I'm not mistaken. I could look it up in a second. And then you have the PQQ with CoQ10. Isn't that a powerhouse? And that was something we heard a lot about during COVID, was the PQQ. And combining it with CoQ10 is great. Now that's going to support cardiovascular. It's also going to help mitochondrial support, which you don't want to forget about mitochondrial support with heart-related issues, because the heart needs a lot of energy to keep beating, and the mitochondria is what makes the powerhouse of the cell. And then, of course, antioxidant support.
Yeah, and the PQQ, I understand, is not as well known as CoQ10, but it actually may be more helpful, more powerful, whatever, if you do a deep dive into CoQ10 and you like what CoQ10 can do, then you also need to look at the PQQ, because it is an amazing powerhouse. And so putting those two together is beneficial. But yeah, if you're only familiar with CoQ10, people should definitely check out the PQQ, because it's got some extraordinary capacity that if you're already using CoQ10, you'll be interested in PQQ.
Yeah, and it does a lot more than just what we have listed there. Like we said, a lot of cellular vitality, even cognitive function, overall health and well-being, really. So those are the very specific ones for cardiovascular. Now there's one more, I believe. Yes. These are kind of secondary, just because those ones are so very specific. So secondary, we would have taurine plus. Taurine is very important for heart function, cardiovascular integrity, and of course, I think we've talked about this before, for liver gallbladder support. And we have to remember how much the liver gallbladder, really specifically the liver, does in the body, and it filters so much with blood. It's really another one of those organs that have to do so many functions. So when you're starting to talk about unhealthy fats and cholesterol and all those type of things, we need to think about the liver health. So taurine is going to help cardiovascular health in kind of two ways. One, it directly helps the heart, and secondary, it's going to help the liver, which is going to help the heart. So taurine plus, a powerhouse there. Then you have beetroot powder. Now, I think everyone's probably heard of beets or super beets and stuff for blood flow and blood pressure and all the cardiovascular improvement. But that's the number one thing, is it supports blood flow, blood pressure, athletic performance, and stamina. So that's a powder. It's organic beetroot powder. So you would mix that in a drink. And then we have the dual purpose proteolytic enzymes. Now, this one's kind of more for supporting digestion. So it's going to help with gas and bloating and inflammation and help breaking down proteins. So this is something you can take with meals. But if you wanted to take it away from meals, it has a lot of proteolytic enzymes in there. So now you're going to have more of the proteolytic enzyme effect of breaking down accumulations in the body that you don't want there. So this one, that's why it's called dual purpose, because really you can use it multiple ways. You can use it as an enzyme with your food. You can use it away from food to help break down stuff in the body. Trace replace ionic minerals. It's just another great way to get all your 60 essential minerals, and there's probably more than that, because you have minerals that are non-essential, they're not non-essential, but they're not the main 60. They're more like what we would call trace minerals, and they're also in there, and it's going to help your pH balance. So trace replace. Now this is something you just add to your drinking water. You don't down this stuff. It will be on the bottle. It tells you how many drops or dropperfuls of, or maybe it says teaspoons. I think it says how many teaspoons you put in like a liter of water, and then, or ounces. And so you add this to your drinking water, and it puts the minerals back into your drinking water. And it's another great way to get minerals in the body, because minerals are really important for cardiovascular. So electrolytes. So if you're looking for like electrolyte replacement drink, this would be a good one. This is going to have all your electrolytes in it. Olive leaf advanced immune. Olive leaf is not just great for the immune system, but it's great for cardiovascular support and cellular vitality. And of course, if the cells aren't happy and the cells aren't functioning, the tissue isn't going to function and the organ's not going to function. So we have to keep the cells of the heart healthy and functioning. So olive leaf is a really good one for that. Let me see here. Oops. What do I do with it? Oh, I found it. There's my chart. Now, entire screen, share. So we're going to bring that up here in a minute. Maybe I'll make it a little bit. Oops, that was too big. There we go. You should be able to see that whole thing there. So there's all the points. Now they have the Hebrew letters, modern and ancient form, and the numbers. And it's easier for people just to go by the numbers. But now you have a slide that shows you all the different numbers and where they are. So I think you can see one of them here was this 9 on the blade. And it's right at the bottom of the shoulder blade. And I think this is another one. It was the 10 up here at the top of the shoulder blade. I don't remember what the other ones were. But now you have a chart where you can, the 4s, they're up here at the back of the bottom of the back of the cranium, what we call the occipital. But there you go. So now you can take a picture of that of the screen or whatever, and people have the points in case they need a reference.
Yeah, and you've written a book about this, and you actually teach practitioners how to use this. So you have put a lot of research into this, and I think it's just wonderful that you're able to share it, and in a way that lets everyone know that this is, the way we were created, the way physics works, and we're able to utilize that for us, and that's good. The other thing that I was thinking just here at the very end is the idea of cardiovascular health being not just the physical heart and whether it's plugged up with gunk or not, but also the energy and the electricalness. So back when I had my own heart issue, which thankfully was short-lived, and we figured out what caused it, and yeah, it probably did have to do with electrolyte imbalance. But when I had that episode, when I had that problem, I ended up having 2 cardiologists. And I had this not only for the emergency situation, there seemed to be 2 cardiologists, but then later when I tried to get things fixed better and get off of the heart drugs and whatnot, I had 2 cardiologists. And it was interesting because in each one, you have the cardiologist that is working on the physical heart, the one that's, checking to see if everything is right and, whether it's plugged up or not. And you've got the one that specializes in the energy of the heart and the electricness and whether the electrical is working right. Sure, they're both cardiologists and they both know what they're doing, but you have some that specialize in each aspect of the heart. And so that tells me that when we're talking circulatory health, we are talking about the physical body and the energetic side of it. And it's just amazing that God created us this way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that was really interesting, Dr. Monzo. If anybody wants to read more about what Dr. Monzo is doing, His website is drmonzo.com. That's a
Yes.
drmonzo.com, and you can learn more about what he's been learning a lot about and sharing with people. So
Yeah, no,
thank you for being here.
I have the a vote tab now on my website
Oh, do you?
where you can go and I think it says vote Monzo Maha, make America healthy again. And I made a short video to show people how you go to nominees for the people and vote for me. And I don't know how much longer it's going to be open because Trump is in there now. And as soon as Kennedy gets confirmed, I guess he's going to be picking his team. But
Wow.
I have been nominated, so people can go there and vote for me, and we'll see what happens. But
well, we certainly see this as a really good opportunity to try to make America healthy again, because it's been a long time, and there have been a lot of things in our diet and in the farming, agriculture, medicine, all these things that are working against us. And so if we can start getting the word out about how to get well, stay well, restore balance, that's what we want to do.
Well, it looks like the FDA is already starting to line up along with their work on getting that red dye out. So it's like, this is interesting.
That was good news. That was really good news. Clean up our food supply, even if it is the processed food. Get the gunk out, and start eating healthy again.
We'll see where this goes. Exciting times.
It is. It is. Well, thank you, Dr. Monzo. Enjoyed it.